Today I'd like to show you how to make the Bougainvillea flower. The cutter that I'm going to use is the sepal cutter from the orchid set. This is off the moth orchid. And I'm also going to use a small blossom cutter, and this is from the shoes, bags and confetti set. The paste, you will need a yellow, a purple and a green flower paste, and we recommend that you use the flower paste from Renshaw's. This works very well with our cutters. You also need a little shortening, so this is Trex or Crisco, as long as it's a vegetable fat and not an animal fat. The other tools you need will be a bone tool, a Dresden tool and a frilling stick. Now the first thing I'm going to do is make some stamens, because the flower is going to be edible, so I'm not using cotton stamens or artificial stamens at all. And I'm taking a small piece of the green paste, and I'm taking that, it's about a pea size, taking that into a ball and then into a little sausage shape, and then I'm going to open the end out with a frilling stick. So I'm just making a little dip in there, and that would be left to dry, and you would need to make 3 of those. When it's dried, I'm going to use yellow paste and this time I'm going to put a little of the shortening onto the board and roll out. Now when you roll out, don't lift the paste, it needs to stick down onto the board and have a good contact. And then you take the little blossom cutter and put a little of the shortening onto that, and then cut out a flower for each of the stamens. Then you take your dried stamen and moisten the end with a little water. Take the flower, place that on top, and then use the end of the the frilling stick just to pop that down in the centre there. And you would do that with all 3 stamens. Now to make the flower, I'm going to use the purple flower paste. And again, a little of the shortening. So roll, and again, don't lift the paste. Always make sure that it's stuck down well to the table, to the non-stick rolling board. So this is the sepal cutter that I'm going to use, and place that down onto the paste. Press firmly around the outer edge. Remove the surplus paste. Always remove the cutter before the paste. And then I'm going to place that onto a sponge pad. So with a fine knife, just underneath the paste. And then I'm going to use the bone tool. Now I'm using the heel of the largest end of the bone tool, so this part here, and I'm just going to coax the petal out to a point and then widen each one slightly. Until you're happy with the shape, and then that will go onto the veiner. So lay 1 petal and press, turn it round and press the second, again turn and press the third. And then return it to the sponge pad, and I'm going to use the flat side of the Dresden tool. You have a flat side and there's a sharp, narrow pointed side. So this is the flat. And from the centre, press to create a centre vein. And then turn the flower over and just pinch each of the petals at the end to create a little point. I'm just going to lay that down on there for a moment, and I'm going to make a foil support for that. So just as you would make a piping bag, I'm going to roll foil, wrap it round, and then curl the edges out and make a little cone shape. And the ideal support for this are something like the tops of aerosols. I've used the aerosol spray here, and it's the lid from that. So when I've finished with the spray, hang on to the lids, because you can use them for supports for the foil cups. And then you would take the flower and drop that into there and leave that to dry, preferably overnight. Now I have one here that's already dried, and so I'm going to put my little stamens inside there. So you take a small amount of the green paste, and make glue by adding a little water and just work that until it's nice and smooth. And then you can use something like your Dresden tool just to lift and drop a little in the bottom of the flower. You don't need too much. And then you take the dried stamens and just place one in front of each of the petals, and then a small ball of foil, or you could use kitchen paper for this, but just make a small ball of foil and place behind each of the stamens just to hold it in place. And you would leave that to dry. And again, preferably for about 6 hours anyway, or overnight. And then you can just use tweezers to lift the foil out. I'm also going to make some leaves to go with that flower. Just put that to one side. And I'm going to use the same cutter and some green paste. So I'll just move my glue from here. And again, you rub a little shortening on the table. The green flower paste. Just work it so it's nice and pliable. And then roll out and take the cutter, same cutter, place it onto the paste, and again press firmly around the outside edge. Remove the surplus paste. Now I'm going to make a little hole in the centre, and that's a guide for me to trim each of these petals and separate them. I'm just going to place them onto a sponge pad. So again, trim to a point. The pointed end is actually going to be the bottom of the leaf. It's the rounded part that's the top. So remove that spare paste. And that should really go back in the bag because it does dry out very quickly. Right, I have my 3 leaves. So as we did for the flower, I'm going to do the same for these. So I'm going to just stretch the end to a point, the rounded end, using the base of the ball, the bone tool again. And then I'm going to again place each one onto the veiner, exactly the same as I did for the flower. Once you've done all 3, you then place them onto a colouring sheet. Now this is just a piece of laminated paper, but it's really good for colouring. Once you've finished, you can wipe it down and use it over and over. So you'd place your leaves onto that, and then I'm using the dark green dust colour and I'm just going to brush a little of the dark green around the outside edge and a lighter green. This is this has a little gold in it. It's called Frosted Leaf, and I'm just going to brush a little of that along the centre of each of the leaves. And if you feel you have a little too much colour, don't be afraid to just work the 2 together with your finger. Just blend that in and then place each leaf back onto your sponge pad. And again, using the bone tool to just bring a little movement, so gently press around the outside edge to bring a little movement into your leaves. So I have 3 leaves. I have a little 4-inch cake here, iced and ready to put the flowers on. So firstly I'm going to pipe a stem, and for this I'm going to use a little sugar paste, not flour paste, sugar paste. And I'm going to work that until it's pliable, and then I'm going to add a little water and some brown dust colour to that, to a piping consistency. You do have to take just a little bit of time just to work that nice and smooth. It's quite handy this, because you can pipe around the base of a cake with it. If you're doing an ivory cake and you want a little shell base or piped around the base, but exactly the same colour, then this is what you would do. You would take a little of your sugar paste, add water, and then you can pipe little bulbs. But in this case I'm going to pipe a stem. You just need a little more. It should be shiny, it should have a little shiny appearance to it. You can also do brush embroidery with this, and I will show you that some other time. Right, so I'm going to that add a little dust colour. They work very well in with royal icing as well. You don't have to have paste colours if you have the correct dust colour that you like. And I'm going to place that into a piping bag. So I've made a little paper piping bag and a number 3 piping nozzle. So trim the end from the bag. Oops. Making certain that you have a nice clear end. into the bag, fold down. Never overfill a piping bag. You should fold it down so that you have a little pad and you can press against that. If you overfill, what happens, or if you don't roll it down far enough, when you squeeze, the bag will open and the pressure, the icing will come back up. You lose the pressure and so you lose control of your piping. I'm just going to wipe down. So take the cake and I will pipe a little curly stem, maybe 2. And then I'm going to attach a leaf. So I will place one of my leaves there and then attach the flowers. The little 4-inch cakes, nice size for gifts, as thank you gifts. Place one there, and then a 3rd flower at the back. And once they're in place, then you can see whereabouts you're going to attach your leaves. A little bit more icing. I'll just turn that round so that you can see. And one here. Just push it underneath. And there's the little cake, complete.